I mean, it could be an array of ideas.
And on top of that, could you have it so that it takes kids out of the valley, so we move up into the mountains towards San Diego?
Awesome.
Because that way you get people out of the environment, and then when they're going to go into that camp, then they're going to make the drive back home, and where are they going to look out as they look across the Valley?
Yeah.
So that's where the awareness, that's where it seeps in.
Well, I think it's somewhere indoor if it was here, like maybe like a gym or something.
Okay, and they're not going to see it. They're not going to, because they're like, okay, this is just something boring I'm doing. They go out to this camp, okay, I learned all the stuff, and they come driving back. And that's,
Yeah, good idea.
Any other ideas? Ideas in regards to off-road vehicles?
Well, I hesitate to bring this up. I don't know how it would be addressed, but, even if there are a lot of off-road vehicle parks within Imperial Valley, and they all have huge air pollution associated with them. And so far, nobody has spent the time trying to convince the Bureau of Land Management to monitor the load to really show what it adds. But I have been at the Imperial Sand Dunes over Thanksgiving, where there's 200,000 people, and it's hard to breathe. I mean, the air is purple, and it's just awful. So this, on an annual basis, 6 months a year, this is adding to the load. So maybe the suggestion would be to have the county, I don't know how the county and the local air quality district would work with the federal government, but to help them decide to put up air monitors so you can see what that load is. I mean, sooner or later, when we talk about carbon footprint of California, we're going to have to look at the elephants in the room, which are like this luxurious activity called off-road vehicle recreation, which is adding huge. It's an additional load that some could argue isn't really necessary for our country.
Licensing, where does that money go? The licensing for off-road vehicles?
Well, there's a fund that comes from that. But anyway, so not to go down on a sermon, but, and I know that the county appreciates whatever money they think off-road vehicle recreation brings to the county. They don't ever address the impacts, like to Brawley Memorial Hospital, to law enforcement, which is drawn from, they even send Forest Service guys down to patrol Ocotillo Wells and the Dune. And they don't talk about the economic impacts. They only talk about how much gas people buy in food, which arguably they don't, because they get it in Yuma on the way over. That's cheaper. But the point is, it's a huge source, and it's an ongoing source. It may be reduced by the high gas prices to a certain degree, but would that be a worthwhile thing to do, to monitor those locations? Now, with Ocotillo Wells, and I'm going to be over at the Air Pollution Control District today talking to Brad about the fact that this winter, when the wind blew from the east, it carried Ocotillo Wells pollution into Borrego Springs. On New Year's weekend, people with problems had to leave town. So it's not like it's just a local impact either. So how could, it's such a huge, the off-road vehicle industry is such a huge lobby, so well funded and so present in Sacramento. It's hard to, take them on, but, how could we educate people to start looking at that as a source that needs to be at least acknowledged? With air monitoring, I think air monitors on site would be really eye-opening.
You know what? You're bringing up this topic which I brought up yesterday, and that was the border patrol along the border between San Diego and Centro. But it seems to me that I'm noticing a lot more vehicles, and I'm thinking they must be making more roads, or like they're creating roads as they're driving around. Not to mention how much gas they're wasting as they're driving around. And I know it'd be real difficult to talk to basically the federal government about this, but I think if we could address the local border patrol and maybe raise some concerns, they can look into their own policies and maybe look into, because like you said, off-roading, they're off-roading in a way, but
Yeah.
for a
Well,
serious purpose, and we don't want to
yeah.
interfere with that. We don't want them to recognize.
Right. Well, in the western part of the county, over by Ocotillo, there were people concerned in that area, and they worked with the BLM and the Border Patrol. Their concern was the Border Patrol is running across wilderness areas to go chase these poor people down. And so what they did instead is they put up cameras. And so now, instead of driving from Highway 8 all the way down to, Sierra Madre, they stay on the road, theoretically, and the sensors catch people, and they wait for them to walk out to the road instead of driving. So that's doable. Now, the Border Patrol has talked about how they'd like to close some part of the dunes because people aren't driving up with smuggling drugs through the Imperial Sand dunes, and that creates more work for them and death and dismemberment.
Yeah. More risk.
Yeah. So, but that's sort of a different issue.
Along Yuma, they have those barricades.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen them out here.
Well, the sand, shifts so the barricades will be covered.
Yeah,
every week.
I know, Bob more concerned about the carbon footprint.
Yeah, the carbon footprint,
and
yeah.
the dust off-roading.
Right,
So-
that's true. And then, right now they're doing lining canal, which is actually digging another canal. There's huge industrial air pollution impacts going on in the dunes right now. Huge. They're watering the dunes. Another source of air pollution that may be coming in is if they start to come over here and want to put up huge industrial solar plants. Now, it sounds like a good idea. Solar is a good idea, but probably to take 9 square miles of desert and basically scrape all the dirt off the desert, making roads to install solar mirrors is going to create another source of dust.
Yeah.
Not to mention.
But I think though at first, because if the plant becomes established and sustainable, so which should be a difficult thing, but as long as the plant stays there for a while, eventually the soil around it would compact and the road.
After about 300 or 400 years,
Okay.
they scrape. There is a layer of crust on
Right.
some parts of the desert, and when you scrape that, it's gone. It's gone. And
Well, I know, it doesn't make sense.
so that I know there's going to be a meeting down here on July 10th about that, and I think everybody should show up. Our thought in the city is we need to put solar panels on our roofs and not go out and hammer the desert for these huge industrial projects.
And there's grants for that as well.
Well,
I mean, and
this
there's
is like
compensation from the government that's supposed to come to the.
That's right.
Especially they were putting on those roofs and the shades.
They're using parking lot.
Parking lot
covers
shades.
with photovoltaic. Well, not enough.
You know what I saw on television was this guy was making fabrics. That you can across anything, provide a little bit of basically shade from the heat. It doesn't reduce the light, but there's elements of solar collectors in there as
That's
well.
a new technology, thin film
Yeah.
photovoltaic. It's half as expensive as putting up solar panels. It's new. It's new. We just have to keep people who want to come to the desert, put up huge projects, which will provide like 10 jobs for like 15 minutes. And then they leave, hold them back until the technology becomes cheap enough.
That was sustainability. So and I think like companies paying, for their carbon footprint instead of doing some other act. I think that's something to be discouraged personally.
Sure.
Because that becomes a money issue, and then for that company, it's like, all right, well, it's no longer feasible. I'm going to move and leave my trash here, kind of thing. But if you insist on the company, okay, you guys need to create a park before you come in, I think that's a better way, or that's something that's a better approach rather than the money aspect. Even though we need money, I think we're more in the air bubble, and we need to look at that air bubble more. But,
Good man to have on the Clean Air Initiative.
just ideas, just ideas.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. One of mine drove here, just one little anecdote. From Phoenix, he drove to see me last weekend. He called me on the phone. He was near the dunes. He goes, is there some huge forest fire burning in Southern California? I said, no. I said, I've heard. And really what he was seeing was smoke from burning. I mean, I saw smoke from burning today. Maybe the bulk of it is done in January and February, but they burn right now. And it was so bad it hurt his visibility on Highway 8.